the spinal thalamic tract. So here's our roadmap. We're going to follow a single pain signal right from the tip of your finger all the way up to your brain. We'll break it down into 5 clear, totally manageable steps. Let's jump in.
Okay, so first things first, every sensation, every single signal in your body has to start somewhere, right? For pain and temperature, our story begins exactly where you'd think it would, right there at the surface, in your skin. I want you to really picture this. You touch a hot stove. What happens? It's not just a vague, ouch, no way. It's a very specific type of pain. It's sharp, it's burning, it's in a precise location, and it triggers that instant emotional reaction to pull your hand back. Well, the spinal thalamic tract is the high-speed data cable that makes all of that happen, delivering that incredibly complex info to your brain in a fraction of a second. Now let's take a closer look at what's going on here in this diagram. The journey kicks off with these specialized little detectors called free nerve endings. You've got nociceptors for pain and thermoreceptors for temperature. Think of them as the frontline alarm system. They're the ones that scream danger the absolute instant you touch that hot stove.
So the alarm's been triggered. How does that signal get from the skin to the spinal cord? This right here is a super important point, a classic exam question for sure. It travels on 2 totally different types of nerve fibers. You can think of them as 2 different messengers. First, you have the A delta fibers. See how they're myelinated? That myelin is like an insulator, so they are incredibly fast. They're the express delivery service, carrying that initial sharp ouch. We call that first pain. But then you have the C fibers. They're unmyelinated, so they're slower. They're like the standard mail service. They're responsible for that dull, throbbing ache that kind of lingers afterward, and that's your second pain.
Okay, our signal has made it to the spinal cord. Now, this is arguably the most critical location for this entire pathway. Why? Because something really specific, something that defines this tract, is about to happen right here. So our first-order neuron, the one carrying the signal from the skin, comes into the dorsal horn. That's the back part of that gray matter butterfly shape you see in the middle of the spinal cord. And it doesn't just connect with any old neuron. Nope. It targets specific, highly organized layers of cells called the Rex head laminae. Think of it like a big apartment building for sensory info, and our signal is headed to a very specific floor. For your exams, you absolutely need to know 2 of these locations. Both the fast A delta fibers and the slower C fibers are going to hand off the signal to our second-order neuron. And they do it mainly in 2 key layers, lamina I and lamina V of the dorsal horn. This is our first major relay station in the chain. Now, before we see what that second neuron does, we need to know this word, decussation. It's just a fancy anatomical term that means crossing the midline. And for the spinothalamic tract, this is its signature move. And the key thing to remember, it happens immediately. And this diagram shows it perfectly. Look at this. As soon as that second-order neuron gets the signal, its axon wastes absolutely no time. It shoots across to the opposite or contralateral side of the spinal cord, and it does this using a little bridge called the anterior white commissure. So what does this mean? It means a pain signal from your left hand is now traveling up the right side of your spinal cord. It crosses over almost instantly at the level it enters. This is a game changer. And it's the total opposite of the pathway for fine touch and proprioception, which stays on the same side all the way up to the brainstem. Knowing that difference is absolutely crucial for answering clinical questions. So our signal has crossed the midline. It's officially on the other side. Now, it has a pretty long trip ahead of it, a straight shot up the spinal cord and brainstem, headed for the brain's central relay station, the thalamus. And here's the beautiful thing. Sometimes anatomy gives you a freebie. The name of the tract literally tells you the route. It goes from the spine to the thalamus, spinal, thalamic. Easy, right? On this slide, you can really trace its entire journey upward. This whole bundle of axons traveling together forms the spinothalamic tract. You'll also hear it called the anterolateral system, which simply describes where it is in the white matter of the spinal cord. You can just see it cruising all the way up, carrying that contralateral pain and temp info, with one big destination in mind, the thalamus. But of course, it's not quite that simple. The signal doesn't just arrive at the thalamus. It's more specific. It targets 2 key areas for 2 different jobs. The main stop is the ventral posterolateral nucleus, or VPL. Just think of the VPL as the brain's sensory GPS system. It's all about localization. Where's the pain? But some of the fibers also go to the intralaminar nuclei. And these guys handle the emotional side of things. That, wow, this feels awful, make it stop part of the pain experience.
We are on the final leg of the journey now.
The signal made it to the thalamus, and our second-order neuron is synapsing on our third-order neuron. This is the last neuron in the chain, and its job is to take that signal to the cerebral cortex. This is where a raw electrical signal finally becomes a conscious thought, a feeling.
So remember our two thalamic targets? Well, they each launch projections to completely different places in the cortex. And that creates two distinct experiences of pain. The neuron coming from the VPL, or GPS, heads straight for the primary somatosensory cortex. At the same time, the neuron from the intralaminar nuclei, our emotion center, projects to different spots, like the insular and orbitofrontal cortex. It's pretty amazing. One signal splits into two pathways to create the complete, complex experience of pain. And that first projection brings us to this famous map of the body and the brain, the sensory homunculus. The signal from the VPL nucleus lands right here in the primary somatosensory cortex. Because this part of the brain is so incredibly organized with a specific spot for each part of your body, this is what allows you to know with absolute certainty that the stove burned your left index finger and not your right big toe. This pathway is your "where does it hurt" system.
But let's be real, pain is so much more than just a dot on a map, isn't it? It's an unpleasant, awful emotion. It motivates you. That is the job of that second projection, the one that goes to the insula and other areas. This pathway is what generates the suffering, that urgent desire to make it stop, and all the negative feelings that we associate with pain. This system answers the other critical question: how bad does it hurt?
And there you have it. We have traced the entire pathway, from a simple nerve ending all the way to conscious thought. So let's do a super quick recap just to lock in these key points for good. Honestly, this table is your ultimate study slide. Let's just walk right through it. Neuron number 1 starts in the periphery. Its cell body is in the dorsal root ganglion, and it ends in the dorsal horn. Got it. Second order neuron. Cell body's in the dorsal horn. It decussates, crosses over, and then ascends all the way to the thalamus. Check. And finally, the third order neuron goes from the thalamus up to the cortex. Simple, clean, and incredibly high yield. All right, to finish up, let's put it all together with a clinical puzzle, just to make sure you've really got this down. A patient has a lesion that wipes out the spinothalamic tract on the right side of their spinal cord. What are they going to lose? And more importantly, on which side of the body will they lose it? Now think about that one key event, that one signature move that defines this entire pathway. Where does it cross? If you can answer that one question, you are going to nail these clinical problems every single time.